Hello, good morning. For those that are in Europe, good afternoon. It's 6 p.m. in Tokyo. This is Lucas Kofie from the EU-Japan Technology Transfer Help Desk. I am in Tokyo, and this is the first webinar of the new year. So, first of all, Happy New Year to all the attendees, new and old names. So it's always good to find people that are interested in these topics. This is webinar number 32. And the theme today is Horizon Europe in a nutshell, EU-Japan collaborations and IP implications. We will talk about very interesting topics with Gloria Villara Acevedo, that is the head of the European Projects Office at Pons IP. Welcome, Gloria. Before giving you the stage, I would like to introduce a couple of things, including your bio, but first of all, welcome. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Luca.
Just let me give 1 minute, give me 1 minute for introducing you properly, saying to the audience, telling about your background a little bit. So Gloria graduated in chemistry at the Universidad Complutense de Madrid in Spain, and she also holds a PhD in chemistry from the University of Washington in the US. Her professional career is mostly concentrated in the public sector, where she has more than 10 years of experience working in the management and implementation of European R&D projects, being an expert in framework programs FP6, FP7, and Horizon 2020. In addition to expertise in management experience in other national and international funding programs, she has also worked for the Spanish Ministry of Science and Innovation, and being part of the Deputy Director General for the European programs, and later at the Institute of Health, Carlos the third, or tercero, if my Spanish is still good, where she specializes in her health domain. She has been national contact point for the Horizon 2020 Research Infrastructure Program for 4 years, and in 2018 she joined Pons IP team as the Project Management Office Director, with the aim of promoting the company's involvement in European projects, ensuring the correct planning, implementation, execution of IP protection, as well as the management of innovation and exploitation. Gloria helps improving the firm's client services in terms of European funding opportunities with a focus on IP management. That said, without further ado, because we have many things to talk about, Gloria, welcome again, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Luca. So first of all, I would like to thank the EU-Japan Technology Transfer Help Desk and the Brussels office of the EU-Japan Center for Industrial Cooperation for inviting Pons IP to give this webinar. Thank you, Luca, as well for the introduction. So today's webinar has 3 parts. The first part is going to be related to Horizon Europe and the ongoing negotiations that are taking place to state this new next EU Research and Innovation Investment Program. So since this program is still not adopted and is under negotiation, for this part of the webinar, I am going to use the slides that the European Commission has provided to the member states for them to explain this program that is not still adopted by the European Parliament. There is a second part in which I'm going to briefly talk about how Japan has been collaborating thus far with European institutions in the current Horizon 2020 program. We don't know how this is going to be shaped in Horizon Europe, but we have some hints. And then the third part is going to be focusing the importance of intellectual property in collaborative projects. And then we will have some time for questions, I hope. So the first part is Horizon Europe in a nutshell. So as I mentioned, Horizon Europe will be the next 7-year research and innovation program that will be running from 2021 to 2027. And its design will allow this program to serve all the ambitions of the political guidelines of the President-elect von der Leyen. So the program's general objective will be to deliver scientific, technological, economic, and societal impacts for the Union investment in research and innovation, as well as to strengthen the scientific and technological basis of the Union, at the same time as fostering its competitiveness in all member states. So let's see the part the conceptual part of the program. I want you to keep in it's very important that you keep in mind the fact that at this point in time, the EC is not yet able to engage in substantial discussions of the program because the negotiations, as I said, between the Commission, the Council, and the European Parliament are still ongoing. So as you can see here, Europe's current vision is to achieve sustainable, fair, and prosperous future for people in the planet based on European values. So there are three main objectives to achieve with the Horizon Europe implementation. So the first one, you can see there, is tackling climate change. So this would be a clear objective of Horizon Europe, and we know at this point that the Commission has reserved 35% of the total budget of the program for actions directly related to climate change. And these actions may be spread across different parts of the program. The second objective is related to the Sustainable Development Goals, and Horizon Europe will be determined to help achieving these goals with the funded project's impact. And the third objective is boosting the Union's competitiveness and growth, which was Horizon 2020 main objective, as this program was born in the middle of the crisis. But now, in its successor, that will be Horizon Europe, this objective takes the third position, indicating that this problem is not as relevant as 7 years ago, but still needs to be taken care of. So, this ambitious European Research and Innovation Program is born, therefore, to strengthen the European scientific and technological basis, and as well as the European research area, the ERA. Also to boost Europe's innovation capacity, competitiveness, and jobs, and as well to deliver on citizens' priorities and sustain our socioeconomic model and values. So the benefits for Europe that the European Commission has detected will be, you can see them in this slide, transnational collaboration, exchange and network, critical mass to address global challenges, competitive funding promoting excellence, visibility for leading research and innovation, transnational mobility, creating new market opportunities, strengthening the European research and innovation landscape, as well as attracting the best talent. So let's see now the political agreement that has been partially reached for Horizon Europe. So the European institutions have reached a partial political agreement that is subject to formal approval by the European Parliament and the Council for Horizon Europe. So this preliminary political agreement that, as I said, is reached by the Parliament, the Council, and the Commission, is now subject to formal approval by the European Parliament and the Council. Horizon Europe's budgetary aspects are subject to the overall agreement on the European net long-term budget proposed by the Commission in May 2018. So, things like budget, synergies with third countries, which kind of associations is the program going to have regarding 10 countries, are things that are still pending to be approved or will depend on the overall multi-financial framework negotiations. But now the Commission has started the preparation of the implementation of Horizon Europe, the how it's going to be implemented. So this is the structure of the program, which parts contributes to the general and specific objectives of Horizon Europe. Those of you who are familiar with Horizon 2020 would know that we have a continuity regarding the structure of the program, because we have also 3 pillars that we have as we have in Horizon 2020. But they are a little bit different, so let's go through them. So the first pillar would be excellent science, and it will have the following components. It will have the European Research Council, the Maria Sklodowska-Curie actions, and the research infrastructure programs. The Pillar 1 of Horizon Europe would be bottom-up, so it's investigator-driven, and it won't be directly implementing the politics of science and technology of the Commission. For that, we have Pillar 2, that is called Global Challenges and European Industrial Competitiveness, and it will have the net components that they are going to break up into intervention areas. And now they are called clusters. This would be similar to our Pillar 3 in Horizon 2020, in which we have the societal challenges. Now we don't have such challenges, but we have the domains in form of clusters in this Pillar 2. So the clusters would be a cluster for health, a cluster for culture, creativity and inclusive society, a cluster for civil security for society, another one for digital industry and space, another one for climate, energy and mobility, a cluster for food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture and environment, and then also this Pillar 2 will hold the budget for the non-nuclear direct actions of the Joint Research Center. So if you are familiar with Pillar 3 of Horizon 2020, you will be missing maybe a cluster for social sciences and humanities. There will not be a cluster for such domain, but the social sciences and humanities shall play an important role across all clusters. So this, the projects that will be built on in these clusters, they will be collaborative projects with a clear policy objective, and it will take more than half of the total budget of the program. And finally, we will have a Pillar 3 that is called Innovative Europe, and it will have the following components. It will have a European Innovation Council. It will have European Innovation Ecosystem, also the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, AID, and then the part of the widening participation and strengthening the European research area that will have two components. The first one, widening participation and spreading excellence, and the second one, reforming and enhancing the European research and innovation system. No policy goals aside from funding the science and the coolest innovations will be followed in this third pillar. So the Commission proposes for this new framework program a budget of 100 billion euros for the 7-year period. This is currently not decided yet, and therefore is part of the ongoing negotiations between the Commission and the Parliament. But you may know that for Horizon 2020, we are counting with 80 billion euros for the 7 years. So this is a substantial increase of budget. But we'll see finally how the negotiations of the final amount will finish. So as you can see here in the slide, you can see how the budget is proposed to be divided within the different pillars. So the excellent science will take a little less than 26% of the budget. Then the second pillar will have, as I mentioned, more than half of the budget. And the Innovative Europe will take a little less than 14% of the budget. So let's talk about now the central elements of Horizon Europe. So there was a communication on the interim evaluation of the current program, Horizon 2020, and this interim evaluation identified several areas for improvement. So therefore, Horizon Europe will respond to those indicators by providing key novelties in this program that will directly address it. So in this interim evaluation of the current Horizon 2020 program, it was proved that there is needed more support for breakthrough innovation, and then also we need to create more impact through mission orientation and citizens involvement. We will see what that mission orientation means. So these two themes are going to be addressed by key novelties in Horizon Europe, such as the European Innovation Council, that is a new executive agency of the European Commission, and then the research and innovation missions that we'll see in a little bit what those are. Then the report mentions things that there is a need to strengthen international cooperation, reinforce openness, rationalize the funding landscape, and encourage participation. So all those things are going to be addressed by Horizon Europe by establishing extended association possibilities with third countries, with the implementation of the open science policy in our projects, with new approaches to partnership, and also by spreading excellence. So we are going to go a little bit through the key elements of Horizon Europe. So the European Innovation Council, as I mentioned before, is another key novelty of this program, and it would be the one-stop shop for innovation to bring the most promising ideas and breakthroughs innovation from the lab to the real-world application. And then this agency will help also the most innovative startups and companies to scale up. So this is huge in Horizon Europe because we didn't have a European Innovation Council before at European level. So it will be much like the European Research Council. It will be implementing all the innovation actions in Horizon Europe, and it will hold two complementary instruments that we had before in Horizon 2020, but in different parts of the program and a little bit different in schemes. So we will have the Pathfinder, and this will be grants from early technology to pre-commercial, and this was before in Horizon 2020 in the Future and Emerging Technologies program that was in Pillar 1. Now it's here in the European Innovation Council. And then we will have the EIC Accelerator or Accelerator. This is the old SME instrument. So the SME instrument, it has three phases. Now SME instrument phase 1 has disappeared, and this would be an evolution of SME instrument phase 2, in which we are going to have the classical grant that we had before, but there will be also opportunity to ask for blended finance. So there will be venture capital for the commercial part of the program. So this is new, and it will be managed by the European Innovation Council. So the mission, one of the main novelties of Horizon Europe is the mission-driven approach that are linked to key societal challenges and relevant to a broad range of stakeholders as well as citizens. European research and innovation missions would be intended to achieve measurable goals with a set time frame and a certain budget. And they will have to have impact for science and technology or society and citizens that could not be achieved with individual actions. So these missions will be programmed within the second pillar, the global challenges and the European industrial competitiveness, but may also benefit from actions carried out within other parts of the program. So they are intended for competing solutions resulting in pan-European added value and impact. So this would be, as I mentioned, there will be a measurable goal, a huge challenge, and there will be several projects that will contribute to address that challenge. And all those projects together will constitute the given mission. Okay? So, sorry. So we will talk about new approaches now for European partnership. So Horizon Europe will support European partnership with European countries, with the private sector, with foundations, and with other stakeholders. So the aim is to deliver on global challenges and industrial modernization through concerted research and innovation efforts. The Horizon Europe proposal lays down the conditions and principles for establishing European partnerships. So as you can see in this slide, we will have 3 types of European partnership: the co-program European partnership that will be between the European Commission and the private and/or public partners, and this will be based on memorandum of understandings and contractual agreements. Then we will have the co-funding European partnership that will be using a program co-fund action, and these partnerships will involve European countries with research funders and other public authorities at the core of the consortium. And then we will have the institutionalized European partnership that will vary on long-term dimensions and need for high integration, and this will be the partnerships, the articles 185 and 187. So, yeah, international cooperation. International cooperation, as we mentioned before, is very important for the European Commission to succeed in the international cooperation in Horizon Europe. And as a conference that was entitled International Research and Innovation Horizon Europe at the World, the Director General for the DG Research and Innovation mentions the Commission's plans for participation of non-European countries in Horizon Europe. These countries may sign association agreements to the framework program, and this will allow them to participate under the same conditions of the member states. But as I mentioned before, these agreements are not going to be signed until the program is adopted at the end of the year. But the Commission expects to have 20 to 30 countries associated to the program. Now in Horizon 2020 we have 16 countries associated, so this is going to be enlarged. And then ambassadors of 8 countries have already held exploratory talks with the European Commission in December, and these are Canada, Argentina, Australia, Brazil, New Zealand, South Africa, and Japan. The Commission is currently working on making associations much more agile for the country. Because as I mentioned, Horizon Europe is open for international collaboration, and it's a top priority of the European Commission. So the open science across the program, so as you know, science is currently undergoing a revolution thanks to a new approach to the scientific process based on openness, inclusiveness, and cooperation, known as open science. So the European Commissioner for Research, Science and Innovation, Carlos Moedas, the former one, aims to keep Europe at the vanguard of this change by promoting open access to scientific data and publications in all directions. So this type of open collaboration will help research and innovation to generate the knowledge and solutions needed to tackle long-term societal challenges such as health, climate change, or energy. So let's see a little bit more detail of the program. So this is again only the first pillar, the one that is going to be focused on excellent science. And in this pillar, the open science will ensure a strong continuity in supporting the best excellent science in Europe with a bottom-up approach. And as I said, you will have the European Research Council, the Marie Curie actions, and the research infrastructures, and you can see there the breakdown of the budget. So the second pillar on global challenges and industrial competitiveness will take forward the societal challenges and industrial technologies as a top-down directed project addressing European and global policy and competitiveness challenges, and will be integrated into 5 clusters as we mentioned before. So it is very important that it is understood that this is the pillar that is going to implement the scientific policy of the Commission. So therefore, the clusters will be aligned with European and global policy priorities, such as the Sustainable Development Goals, and will have competitiveness as the key drivers. The pillar reflects industry's essential role in achieving all the program objectives. And it was this slide here, sorry. And then the third pillar on open innovation will focus on scaling up breakthrough and market-created innovation through the establishment of the European Innovation Council that is now functioning as a pilot in the last years of Horizon 2020. It's already functioning as European Innovation Council. And the activities of this executive agency will be defined bottom-up and will aim to offer fast and flexible grants. So this should significantly simplify the current support and fill the gap between the grant funding in other parts of Horizon Europe and the financial instruments. So altogether, the 3 pillars will be underpinned by activities to strengthen the European research area that we mentioned before, like spreading the excellence to fully exploit the potential and attain European standards of excellence. So InvestEU will be a financial instrument of Horizon Europe because blending operations decided under this program shall be implemented in accordance with the InvestEU program. The support under the European Innovation Council blended finance may be granted until the action can be financed as a blending operation or as a financing and investment operation fully covered by the European warranty under InvestEU. So this means that there are some schemes within the European Innovation Council in which we will be able to ask for blend finance, including venture capital from some actions. So let's talk now about the how. So the Commission is setting rules that try to be simple and fit for the purpose. So in Horizon Europe, there will be further alignment to the financial regulations. They intend also to increase the use of simplified form of grants where appropriate, building on the pilots that have been implemented in Horizon 2020, such as the lump sum pilot. Then they expect a broader acceptance of the usual cost accounting practice of the institutions that participate to the project. So this will be a further simplification from the practice that we have now in Horizon 2020. They intend to enhance cross-reliance on audit, benefiting beneficiaries taking part in several union programs. And then they pretend to ensure continuity and consistency for beneficiaries by maintaining the attractive current Horizon 2020 funding model that includes up to 100% funding rate of direct costs in some of the actions, and then by establishing a single set of rules principles. So regarding the impact, the flexibility, and the co-design of Horizon Europe, so now in this phase of the negotiations, as I mentioned before, they are establishing the how it's going to be implemented, and for that there is a novelty also in this program, that is the strategic planning. The strategic planning is a new way of setting the detailed research and innovation priorities of Horizon Europe, and it's co-created with other Commission services, with the member states and stakeholders, and also the civil society. So the strategic planning process will cover Horizon Europe as a whole. It will identify areas for funding priorities, partnerships, and missions, and will align them with the political guidelines of the President-elect. The first strategic planning that is currently taking place covers the first 4 years of the program. It will take the form of a multi-annual strategy, while preserving flexibility to respond rapidly to unexpected crises or sustained policy demands. So this means that Horizon Europe work programs will be co-created with all relevant Commission services once the strategic planning process is finalized. So the strategic planning will give direction to the work program. So we have an Horizon Europe legislative package now, and we are in the process of establishing how the implementation is going to be by defining the strategic planning that will cover from 2021 to 2024. And from this exercise, we will have the first work program that will cover the first 2 years of Horizon Europe, from 2021 to 2022. And in this work program, you know that we will have the first calls for proposals. This work program is intended to be prepared by the end of this year and adopted at the same time of the adoption of the program. So we will have the opportunities for the first 2 years of Horizon Europe published at the end of this year. So this is the steps towards this new framework program. So in the summer, there was an early involvement and exchanges between the member states. There was a consultation with the stakeholders and the public at large establishment of the missions. Then in the autumn to winter, there was the exercise of the co-creation and research in the Research and Innovation Days that took place in Brussels on the 24th to 26th of September. In this event, the Commission had the chance to exchange information with the stakeholders, the European Parliament, towards the building up of the strategic plan. So now in 2020, there will be the drafting of the first Horizon Europe work program during the year, and it will be finally adopted and published at the end of the year, and this will be based on the strategic plan. And January 2021, Horizon Europe will be launched. So we have finished the part for the program Horizon Europe, and we will now talk a little bit about how the international cooperation has been structured in Horizon 2020. It will be similar in Horizon Europe, and we are going to be focusing on the Japan participation to Horizon 2020. So, in Horizon 2020, participants from anywhere in the world can take part of the program, but they are not always funded. So we need to distinguish between being eligible to participate to the program versus being eligible to receive funding from the program. However, if you are an individual researcher from any country in the world that are seeking an opportunity to work in Europe for a certain period of your career, you can directly apply to grants such as the European Research Council or the Maria Sklodowska-Curie Actions, regardless of where you are in the world. In these two schemes in Horizon 2020, they are automatically welcome. But for other schemes, let's see how the participation of the countries is structured. So who is directly eligible to receive funders? Of course, the member states, and then the associated countries to the program. There is a list provided by the Commission. You can visit it and see which programs have an associating agreement with the European Commission, and then they can receive funding as if they were a member state. And currently in Horizon 2020 we have 16 countries, as I mentioned before, and we will have from 20 to 30 in Horizon Europe. And then if you are a developing country, that there is also a list, you can directly also receive funding from European projects. However, and this is the case of Japan, industrialized countries and emerging economies need to find out their own funding. Although they can be exceptionally eligible for funding if they have a bilateral agreement between that country and the European Union, the case of Japan, or if the country is explicitly identified in the call for proposal as being eligible for funding. These are also there is a third case in which they participate, if their participation is deemed essential by the European Commission for carry out the action in a coordinated call, for example, because it's a topic in this case that is addressed directly to a certain area of the world. These are the cases. So research and innovation are between the key areas of cooperation between the European Union and Japan. And the European Union, the European Commission and the government of Japan are currently meeting to enhance this cooperation in the next Horizon Europe program. And these conditions to cooperate are very favorable now after the 6th Science and Technology Basic Plan and the Moonshot Research and Development Program in Japan and the next European Research and Innovation Framework Program that is currently under preparation. So Japanese researchers, universities, research organizations, and enterprises can team up with European partners to participate in projects under Horizon 2020. The Japanese participants are, however, as I mentioned, not automatically funded through Horizon 2020, and they have to determine themselves the source of funding and find the resources for the project. So this means, excuse me, this means that if you're drafting a collaborative proposal with a Japanese partner, the Japanese partner will add the budget that is needed for him or to implement the action, but it will request €0 to the European Commission. Then the project will be evaluated, and if the project is selected for funding, that Japanese participant has to go to a funding agency that is previously accorded with the Commission in Japan, and that agency will fund their part of the project. So, for example, in Horizon 2020 World Program, the Japan Science and Technology Agency was providing funding for Japanese partners in a given topic that was related to technologies for first responders, related to natural disasters or mankind-driven disasters. There was another topic in which the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology is providing funding for Japanese partners. So there are certain topics that will be published in the work programs that will be directed to Japan, and you will have information of which funding agency for Japan is covering the participation of the Japanese partner in that particular topic. So you can see here the current priorities of the collaboration between the European Union and Japan. So there is a roadmap for EU-Japan science and technology cooperation. So areas that have been successful in cooperating with Japan include TICS, transport research, and advanced materials research. And then they are currently detecting mutual interest to increase these cooperations in the field of health and medical research, environment, climate change, Arctic research, disaster risk reduction, also on renewable energies, and finally on quantum technologies. Here I have included you some brochures and other local communication materials that are aimed to support Japan's participation in Horizon 2020. This is more for our Japan counterparts, because as you can see, everything is published in Japanese, but there is a lot of information regarding where you can find how to implement this Japanese-European collaboration in Horizon 2020 or later in time in Horizon Europe. Also, here I have included the details of the NCP, National NCP Coordinator for Japan. And also, if you want to search for the Japan Horizon 2020 different national contact points of your partner country, so you can go to this link here. So let's move now to the third part of the webinar, in which I'm going to briefly let you know why intellectual property is important in this case in Horizon 2020 collaborative programs, and it will be also very important in Horizon Europe. So when you build up a consortia, the composition of the different institutions of the consortia is not casual. They are built taking into account the specific skills or expertise of the partners for achieving an expected output or objective of the project. And these partners make part of the consortium because we need the participation of all of them to be able to obtain the expected results. On the other hand, if we as partners decide to collaborate in a project, this means that we are ready to share knowledge, to share skills, and to share know-how that may be required to attain the expected goal of the program. So I have put here the definition of collaboration as the act of working with another person or group of people to create or produce something. So having said this, why is IP important? Because intellectual property rights can affect the way a project is conducted and can also in the exploitation of the results, how the results are going to be exploited, meaning how the use of the results in further research activities, for example, or in commercialization activity, or creating a new service, how is the consortium, what is the consortium going to do with those results, so we have the expected impact that we need from the project. So this means that within a research project, it's very important and it's essential to elaborate a good IP strategy covering all the project cycles, from the planning to the execution to the conclusion. And most consortiums fail to do this, leaving themselves and their outputs, the results, open to the risk of improper sue by external and even internal parties. So IP rights can also be a source of future income if they are properly managed, as they promote, among other things, the commercialization of the results. So intellectual property matters in all phases of the project, as I mentioned, and ideally participants should develop the strategy of protection of the results and exploitation of the results at the time of drafting the proposal. So you are drafting the proposal, and the potential participants should know what they bring to the project in terms of IP, what they need from others, what is the state of the art in the field of the project, and should foresee as well what they may obtain from the project they want to be funded. Participants should also think at this stage on the exploitation strategy to apply to the results that might be obtained in the project. And this will be part of the plan for the exploitation and dissemination of results that is mandatory in all collaborative projects. So this means that during the preparation of the proposal, the participants might need to elaborate preliminary agreements such as non-disclosure agreements. For example, if participants need to exchange information for preparing the proposal and they want to keep it confidential, or memorandums of understanding, for example, stating that the research group participating to one proposal will not participate in another proposal of the same topic. And also including provisions, some provisions that will remain into force until a consortium agreement is signed among all the parties, and we will see what that is. Then, if you are implementing the project, for example, participants may need to give access to their knowledge in order to other partners because they perhaps needed to implement the task of the project. And this will be called access rights. And then after the project, once the project is finished, we will have to deal still with intellectual property. For example, if we want to draw a license agreement for a third party to exploit a certain result of the project. So IP is in all parts of a project preparation and implementation. So, when you are planning to participate to a collaborative project as partners, we should have into account that there will be quite a wide range of legal systems. We will have the European and national systems that will govern or rule our participation in the project. For instance, all the European Commission funded projects have to comply with the European Financial Regulation. Another important document to have into consideration would be the rules for participation and the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union, which lays down the basis for the European research policies, including the definition and implementation of the programs. But there are two documents of special importance, as those are the ones that I highlighted there, for collaborative projects that are called the grant agreement and the consortium agreement. So the grant agreement is the contract that is going to be signed between the project beneficiaries and the funding agency, in this case the European Commission, and will establish the beneficiaries' rights and obligations towards the European Commission and towards each other. There is another document that is called the consortium agreement, and this is a private agreement among the beneficiaries. So the European Commission is not part of this agreement. And we can use the provisions of the consortium agreement to supplement or to adapt those provisions of the grant agreement to our particular project. But those provisions in the grant agreement will always, in case of dispute between the two agreements, the grant agreement will be always the one to follow. So this is just to keep in mind that the rules for participation into this kind of program establish the best efforts, commitment to participants to exploit their own results. IP and exploitation issues are subject to evaluation regarding impact and flexibility of the proposal. So this is a rule of the program. So IP issues have to be addressed in all collaborative projects. So a convincing outline of IP management and exploitation strategy on individual and consortium level within the proposal is a relevant matter. And often results of research and development activities require further substantial investments to take them to market, which is appealing if the results are well protected through intellectual property. properly managing IT in the project helps participating to avoid future conflicts among the consortium. So again, intellectual property is present in all the parts of the program, and in collaborative proposal, you normally have an academic set of institutions in the project, and sometimes you have enterprises or companies, and they normally have different interests on the result, on what they want to do with the results. Normally the academic part they want to publish, but the industrial part they want to exploit. So then you need to be very careful and have all that established at consortium agreement level, so that the academic partner is not, for example, publishing something that later on the desire of the other part of the beneficiaries is to protect it and to exploit it. So we have to be very careful with these things, and that is why intellectual property is very important in this kind of funded projects. With this, I have finished my presentation. So if you have any questions or comments, I will be happy to receive them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gloria. Wealth of information. You shared with us a lot of interesting topics. You covered a lot of topics. I can see that there is already a question in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. If you want to take a look. I would say also that probably people are interested in knowing whether they can rewatch the webinar, or maybe have the PDF of the presentation. Usually we do share. So Gloria, if it's okay with you, we will share the presentation as well in this case, together with the video.
Okay.
And this will happen maybe in a week or so from now, just the time to edit the video and upload all the materials. That said, you have a question. I don't know if you want to read it.
Yeah, so it says there are some programs in place on national level in EU countries. For example, German-Japan Innovation Program. Is this coordinated? Contact Tokyo, German Chamber of Commerce. Thanks. Well, I'm not sure what do you mean by if it's coordinated. Do you mean that I don't know if the person that asked the question can clarify what does it mean by the program being coordinated, but
let's say maybe we have.
So apart from the topic that I centered my presentation on, that is the new Horizon Europe program and a little bit of Horizon 2020, there are a huge number of instruments and collaborations apart from this program with European countries and third countries. So yes, there would probably be the German-Japan Innovation Program. Is not part of the current Horizon 2020 and is not part of the future Horizon Europe, but there are a lot of actions in research and innovation regarding collaborations with third countries. But again, I'm not sure about what do you mean by asking if the program is coordinated. I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean. Okay. Can somebody apply both programs? Okay. I'm not familiar with this particular one, but in my experience, yes, you can apply to both programs. You can even apply to the same topic of Horizon 2020, for example, in different consortiums if the coordinators allow you to do it. So one thing doesn't prevent you to do the other one. So yes, you can apply to both programs. The more you apply, the more chances you have, right? Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
it seems you are done with this. I also have a question before probably we close because we're close to 1 hour, but I would like to maybe share it with you in writing, so maybe it's easier.
Okay, so what would be the most effective instrument, in your opinion, for a research institution from the EU to work with a Japanese partner? Okay, so at this point in time, what we have to do is we have to wait for the first work program of Horizon Europe, and we will see in that program which topics from which sub-programs are addressed to Japanese organizations. This means that there is not an instrument that is more effective than the other to collaborate with Japan. Japan will be able to join European consortiums, but we need to wait to see which topics have a bilateral agreement with Japan, in which Japanese funding organizations are going to cover the Japanese participation to that particular project and move from there. So in this moment in time, there is not an instrument more effective than the other. We will have to wait to see where the European Commission and the Japan negotiations have put the focus to collaborate together.
Great, excellent, Gloria. Once again, I would like to remember maybe to people that didn't have the chance to listen to my last comment. We will indeed publish the video of the webinar, so you can rewatch it and share it as you please, and also receive the PDF of the presentations. I'm sure that also Gloria and her team are more than happy to answer your questions if you may have others in the following days or weeks. Anyway, you will have the contacts, so you can contact them freely. Perfect. So Gloria, first of all, thanks to you for being with us today on Friday. Very intense presentation, a lot of information. Thanks a lot for the effort. It was really great. Thanks to the audience, of course, all the attendees, the participants. Hopefully, I'll see you everyone and more in February with the next webinar. Thanks to Eva, as usual, from Brussels for the help and coordination. And I wish you all a great weekend.
Thank you, Luca. Thank you for inviting PonsIT for this webinar, and you all have a nice weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.